Hello friends, welcome to Purvanchal IAS. This is your first lecture in the course of Indian Society and Social Justice. Today we are discussing about Indian society and the topic is features of Indian society. So Purvanchal IAS is a venture for sustainable education. If you want any other online classes, you can download the app, and if you want any other face-to-face or online classes, if you are interested in them, you can contact on these numbers. So the topics which we will be discussing today include: to understand the features of an Indian society, you should first be knowing what an Indian society is, what we can call an Indian society, and what are the distinguishing features of an Indian society. That will be our discussion in the second topic. Whereas, as we know, Indian society has changed largely. So the changes that have happened in the Indian society that are required to be discussed, so that we understand what the changes that have occurred in the Indian society are. We need to know why these changes have happened. So while discussing changes, we will be discussing about why these changes, what are the factors responsible for the changes, and also that what are these changes. Okay, so that will be our discussion. Then we'll see what our Indian society today, which stands before us, looks like, and the conclusion of this entire topic. So this as we have seen in the previous lecture, that is very important as far as your GS1 paper is concerned. So let's begin by discussing about Indian society. So Indian society, it is one of the most diverse mix of cultural, ethnic and ideological groups. Previously, when India was gaining independence, people said that India may not stand united for many years. It might crumble under its mix of cultural, ethnic, ideological groups. But we very well coexisted, and also the important defining features of Indian society can be said to be because of which unity in diversity. Being very diverse, we have remained united, and united at a very level which was national as well as international, with our feature of considering the world to be a family, which is known to be Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, right? So these are the defining features of an Indian society, right? So let's discuss in depth what are the various terms which we need to know so that we understand the features of an Indian society. So to understand that, we need to get through various terms. So when we say we are talking about Indian society, what does a society actually mean? So, a society is nothing but a defined group of people, right, who are interacting with each other. So, we need to see what are the important words that define, that are the characteristics of a particular term. So, society can be said to be a group of people who are interacting with each other. We will see later in the lecture why they need to interact with each other and what has happened in the present sense. They share a common territory too and have a similarity in the culture. So the important words which we need to remember when we talk about society is that people of a society interact with each other. They mostly share a common territory and have similarity of culture. Of course, one of the features, namely globalization, has changed things for us. We may not share a common territory, we may not share a common culture now, but then society can be defined on these norms. And if we are talking about a society, every society has its own culture. So what is culture actually? Culture is nothing but the set of attributes including language, belief, then behavior, material objects. So all of these become part of culture. Culture is mostly said to be the non-material part of Indian society, in the way people behave, in the way people talk, the language they use, and the beliefs they have. But it nowadays, considering one field of study, that is archaeology, we have included that people of olden ages, their culture can be defined with the help of material objects too. Even now, material objects can define our culture. For example, if we talk about the dressing sense of people, that can define which kind of culture people belong to, right? So that these are the terms that we have seen. Also, to have all of these things intact, to have a Indian society or a society intact, there needs to be something that binds them, and for that thing to happen, there needs to be interaction between people in ways of communication and coming together. We can say people interact with each other. Why is interaction required? Because in olden days, previously, people had to depend upon a group of members who were eventually known as a community. A group of members, they had to depend for various needs. If we talk about primitive people, they used to be hunters and gatherers. So if a person wants to go for hunting, he cannot go alone. If he has to do a big game hunting, like if he has to catch elephant and have the meat of the elephant, previously they used to have, because they were hunters, they had to hunt whatever they could find around them. So an elephant was a very big catch, and so it was called big game hunting right then. And elephant requires a lot of strength, so men had to have a group, and for having a group they had to interact, and this is how language developed in today's people then, and that has developed till now. So this interaction is something which defines a society, and this interaction happens between a group of people who share again common culture, they share fixed territory, they also share, they have a we feeling between themselves, that is known as a community. Like Indians watching a cricket match can be called known to be a community, because they have a we feeling. Like India, when it has a cricket match with some other country, you can say people have a we feeling. So we are part of the Indian community, and of course, interaction has come down, but it is also an important part of the Indian society. Similarly, when we talk about interaction and culture, the new entrants into our community, into our family, into our relations need to know how they need to interact between each other. The interaction has a particular way. To understand that way, people should be aware of this term called socialization. The way you need to talk, you cannot talk rudely to people who are elder to you, right? So that thing is taught or transacted, educated by other members of a family to the young members of that particular family. And this entire process of transferring social norms and values, legal laws and policies from the members of a family to the young members is known as socialization. Why did we consider the term family here? Is the first set of people with whom the young members interact are the family, their mother, father, parents, and the families of mother and father with whom they interact. So that becomes a basis for their socialization, basic socialization, we can say primary, at the primary level. And as they grow up, the friends they have, the acquaintances they have, they increase this socialization and create a kind of syncretic environment too. Syncretic environment in the sense, this is largely, as far as our talk is concerned, is limited with religion of people. Different aspects of the religion which can be called to be uniting parts, like we can say different religions, they worship a supreme god, and that thing is a uniting part, in the sense they have the same common feature of each and every religion. So that creates a syncretic feeling. Only that can happen when socialization and interaction happens, and that too in a particular way, in a very proper way. So that needs to be taught. And when this happens, then we can say the young child, the young person has been assimilated into the society. We can say the person becomes a part of the society, or this happens by the process with which this happens is known as the assimilation. And there is another important term which we need to know about is Sanskritization. Sanskritization is nothing but related to a matter, a feature of Indian society, which is caste. Sanskritization in the sense people of lower caste, when they start behaving and when they start getting the respect of the higher caste, that process of elevation, that process of mobility is known as Sanskritization, right? So Sanskritization, let's break the word and try to understand this. Sanskrit was the language that was used by the elite of the olden days, like the priests used to use Sanskrit right then. So a person who belongs to a lower caste, when he tries to emulate, tries to elevate himself, he is said to be Sanskritized. In the sense, if he starts getting the respect of a higher caste person, he is said to be Sanskritized. So this thing is something that is related to the caste of the person. So as we have discussed about caste, let's talk much deeper about the features of Indian society, which becomes the second part of this lecture. The first thing we need to discuss when we talk about Indian society is the caste system, right? So we need to know about the caste system. What are the attributes of main attributes of caste system? We can say it is a hereditary group. Hereditary in the sense it passes down generations. A person who is born Brahman, he remains Brahman. That is what people say. And the sons and the next generation which come of this person also remain Brahman. So this essentially forms a hereditary group, right? And this hereditary group decides the social class organization of the society. You are classified into various kinds of people, various parts of the society based upon your caste. Previously, it used to be said that Brahmins form the highest caste, whereas the Shudras and untouchable form the lowest caste of the society. Right, so there are two main attributes that we can say caste system has. It is a hereditary group and it defines a social class organization. Let us have a look at the other features of caste based society. So if we call a society that it is caste based, then we can say that it has these features, which are they may be having common name, like the last name or the first name which various people have, that can be common between people. Similar traditional occupation, so this is a very important feature of people who belong towards the same caste. Castes were decided based upon occupation previously, right? So if we say that some person is Brahman, so his particular virtue of or what occupation is that he has to teach, right? He has to learn the Vedas and he has to teach. He becomes a priest also, so that is his occupation, and the generations which come under him also have the same occupation. If we talk about Kshatriyas, these were the people who fought wars. Okay, they took the protection of the entire kingdom into their hands. So they had their own occupation, and the generations who came by, they had the same occupation. So caste was related very closely to the occupation of the people belonging to a particular caste, and it was mostly inflexible previously as far as mobility is concerned. What is meant by mobility? Sanskritization is one example of mobility, wherein we can say that people belonging to a particular caste can have themselves elevated. That is what we said as we spoke about as far as Sanskritization is concerned. So this is known as mobility, and caste system was mostly inflexible as far as mobility is concerned previously. Of course, it has become very flexible now, based upon various laws, based upon the entire social structure, but it was very much more inflexible previously. And it forms a single homogeneous community. So the people belonging to a particular caste form a single homogeneous community, right? They are homogeneous in the sense that they share various things. They share a common name, they share a common occupation, they have same kind of customs, rights, rituals, and beliefs. So they can be known to be homogeneous, and this thing was very much prevalent and the basic fundamental of Hindu society. Okay, so this was very much related to Hindu society. Of course, as we go through this session and see what are the changes that have been brought in the Indian society, we will talk about changes that have come about in the caste system, and we can say that Hindu society had caste system, but various other religions have also adopted this caste system. So we have seen what are the attributes of caste system. We can say they are hereditary group and social class organization is defined based upon that. If we talk about society to be caste based, we can say that they have common features like common name, traditional occupation, etc. And it was almost inflexible. There was no mobility, single homogeneous community was formed, and this was part of the Hindu religious society. Similarly, we can talk about a few more terms as far as features of caste system is concerned. One of them is hierarchy. As we saw, social class organization happen. So this class organization had hierarchy. It has a vertical hierarchy in the sense one was known to be a high caste, the other was called a low caste. Right? So that used to happen. So that was there. Based upon what? This was based upon purity. This was based upon their kind of occupation, because the low caste people mostly had things to clean and all, so they used to keep places clean by removing all the dirt. They were said to be impure, because of which they many people of that community were also called to be untouchable. So there was hierarchy based upon purity of what their occupations. Okay, so caste system is very closely related to occupation. First thing is it was divided based upon occupation, and the hierarchy is maintained based upon that. First, that particular caste systems hierarchy is based upon the occupation, right? So the other thing is there was prevalence of endogamy. People of a particular caste used to marry people of the same caste. They would not marry people of other caste. That is known as endogamy, in the sense marrying people of the same caste. Segmented division of the society was also there, if as far as caste system is concerned. Similarly, there was civil and religious disabilities, in the sense you had restrictions imposed on you when you belong to a certain caste system. You have restrictions like Brahmins could not go and clean things, they had to go for their teaching and priestly work only. You had restrictions of dressing, speech, and rituals, right? So, in certain rituals, as if you have gone through the history, you must be knowing that the people from the lower caste were not allowed, and untouchability was a part of it, as we have already discussed. But Indian constitutions, articles 14, 17, and various other provisions, they provide safeguards as far as untouchability is concerned. So Article 14 says that people are equal in front of law, and that essentially makes a Brahman and a low caste person equal in front of law. So there is no point that you people divide yourself in the on terms of caste. And Article 17 of the Indian Constitution, it completely prohibits, completely abolishes untouchability. And if a person is seen, if the state is seen discriminating based upon this criteria that a person is an untouchable, then the person can be moving to the Supreme Court to have his right enforced, right? So that is what and so these two articles form the part of something called fundamental rights of the Indian citizen, which are guaranteed by the Supreme Court, okay, and the Indian Constitution itself, based upon the procedure prescribed wherein the person can move to the Supreme Court and have his right enforced. Okay, so that is the thing related to untouchability. Now, that was about caste system. So, if we move down from the community and start moving into the people, so we can say that kinship, marriage, and family are the other features of Indian society. Is there any difference between these terms? They almost look similar, right? So kinship is something which defines the way in which people are having their relations. Okay, so kinship is said to be established, let's say, in a person who marries a girl, they have a relationship of marriage, right? Now they procreate and they have children, and these children are said to have a relationship of kinship with their parents based on blood. Okay, blood relationship starts appearing here, and these two people, they have a relation of marriage. The families of these two people, they have a relation of marriage, while the children have a relation of blood with their parents, right? So there are two kinds of kinship relations. One is based upon blood, the other is based upon marriage. Okay, so we'll see the names for these things. And so what is the need of having a kinship relationship? So this happens because of social interaction, so that socialization happens in the society. What is the need of having socialization? We maintain unity so that we have social control and the society survives. Okay, so kinship is because of social interaction. This promotes socialization in the sense, with this social interaction, people who are entering the family, who are entering the kinship, they know by the help of socialization how they need to interact with people of their own community, of their own kinship, and this maintains unity within the entire kinship. When unity is maintained, people are at peace with each other, then the society can be having itself established, right? So that is the thing related to kinship. There are two kinds, as we discussed: a final kinship, which is the result of marriage, and consanguineous kinship, which is related to blood relations. Similarly, the other thing is marriage. If we come down further, now we have seen that marriage is a part of kinship, but marriage in particular is also an institution in our Indian society, and it is said to be the significant fabric of social construct. Okay, so what is the need of having marriage? Two people can be mating with each other, and then they can be procreating, right? So the requirement of marriage is that there is loyalty within themselves, and that the marriage is nothing but something that has been recognized by the society. Okay, so you can be yourself also having the organization of the family, but that has to be recognized by the society, so that when social recognition comes in, people are reluctant to change their partners, because changing partners and all of those things create a lot of problems, as we know. So that should not be happening, because of which a particular marriage is given a social yes, because of which people are reluctant to change their partner. So let's see, socially approved relation between male and female is the marriage, and it is sanctioned by custom and law. Nowadays, by custom and law, it is totally sanctioned. You cannot, you have certain rules and regulations which you need to follow when social approval is given. Ensures continuation of family. Obviously, you have the continuation of a particular family. And we can say that marriage is more or less a universal social institution, and there are various legislations that have influenced marriage. If we talk about dowry prohibition 1996 act, we can say that previously people used to have a lot of violent ways of extracting dowry from the female, right? From the girl, they used to extract the dowry, and that used to be very bad. In violent ways they used to do that, so that has been prohibited. Dowry has been itself totally prohibited. Domestic violence also has been prohibited totally, so that has strengthened the position of women. Justice against invisible violence at home has been given. Okay, so these provisions have changed the institution of marriage in this way, as we have seen. Also, live-in partners have been given a social yes, a legal yes. In the sense that these live-in partners are people who stay with each other without even marrying each other, and that thing has been allowed as far as these laws are concerned. So the amendment to Hindu Marriage Act 1955, which happened in 1986, is also important to be discussed here. How marriage has evolved and changed. It has made marriage more flexible, in the sense people are now susceptible to conflicts. In the sense, if they have a small conflict, as we have seen one of the cases wherein someone just with just a few words has broken the marriage. So these things are happening nowadays because that is legal. You can do it, and no one is going to have any sanction against you when you do it. So that has become flexible. There are this is a negative part, because people now are not interested in solving their disputes, because when you have disputes with someone, you are going for the change in the partner. So that is happening. Of course, in many cases it is a positive thing, but then that can be a negative thing in various cases also. Bad marriages can be easily eliminated with this flexibility provided. And if we move on and talk about a family, coming down from marriage into a family, talking about a family. So family is known to be the basic building block of the society. Newborns connect with the family through language, behavioral patterns, and social norms. Okay, so these are the things that help in communicating uh, the members of the family with the newborn, and the newborn also learns the attributes of the society or the community or the caste in which he is growing, namely the language, behavioral patterns, and social norms. Okay, so that is family. So this essentially gives family various attributes, and those characteristics can be discussed here. It is almost a universal group. In the sense, if you go somewhere else to some other country, is it that you may not find any family there? No, you will find a family everywhere. So it is known to be a universal group. It is established by the companionship of husband and wife. Obviously this is known. Family may be limited to husband, wife, or only the father and his children, or only the mother and her children. So that is also known. Several generations may be living together. So there are various kinds of families. Like if you talk about a nuclear family, this is a very small family. Parents and their children, only they are present in the family, and their children, right? So that can be known as a nuclear family. But then you have joint family and extended families, wherein you have various generations living together, and they may be sharing various things, or they may not be, based upon which we can say they are joint or extended. And so we have seen what are the kinds of family. So we can say family has various functions. Okay, why do we have people maintaining a family? Why do they need to live together? So it has various functions. What are the primary functions? It has the transmission of culture between people, between the newbies in the particular family, right? Newcomers into the family, newborn in the family. So that culture transmission is one of the primary functions of a family. Production and raising of children, so that continuity of the particular family or the kinship is maintained. Socializing with the society is one of the functions. Why is socializing required? Because you need to have the society existing through generations. For that, socializing is required. Again, agency of social control. So, a family teaches certain norms, certain rules of the particular society to the young ones by the way of culture transmission, and that can be helping in social control. Similarly, we can say there are various secondary functions of a family wherein we have economic functions. They earn livelihood together and take care of the members of the family. Educational functions, as we have seen, the transmission of various rules, regulations, norms happens. That is one thing. And the other thing is that when you are in a family and people support you, you can have chances of moving into good educational institutions. And when you are alone, like orphans, they struggle a lot. So religious function is also there, because religious rituals, rites, and various norms of a religion which the family itself follows are taught to the people or the newborn in the family. Right, so those were the various features of Indian society which we have seen. Now these features have brought I mean various factors in the uh, our society has brought changes in these features. So what are the factors that have brought changes in the Indian society, that will be discussed, and after this is done we will be discussing what changes have happened in various parts of the society. So the factors we can say are political independence and introduction of democratic values. Okay, previously, as we have seen our Indian society to be, there was not much political independence right at the level of the family itself. There were joint families, many generations used to live together. So the head of the family was the adult male who used to take all the decisions, and people had no individuality, in the sense they had no freedom of having their own will, to be they do, to do things as per their own will, right? So that was not there. But now political independence, in the sense individuality has emerged and from their elders, let alone they take the I mean, they follow their elders, they're not even taking the consent right now. So that individuality has changed the Indian society. So why individuality has come in, that also will be discussed. One of the reasons you can say is abolition of feudal systems, zamindari, jagirdari, princely states. These were not there, these are not there now. Then what are there now? We can say people can be gaining employment themselves because of the industrialization. So this is one of the reasons that this individuality, this freedom has come into the Indian society. Industrialization, in the sense this thing came into our Indian society in the last quarter of 19th and first half of 20th century, in the sense around let's say 1800, after 1850s and 90, before 1950 this thing came in, which was quite late, because in the entire world, let's say Europe or America, the industrialization began a bit earlier. So after what happened here was there was various stages of this industrialization. It is known to be industrialization 1.0, that is mechanization happened, wherein you had work of the people being done by machines. Of course, people used to take care of the machines then in industrialization 1.0, where machines were controlled by people. Later on, what happened, as uh, machines could do more work in a more efficient manner but in less time, mass production of things began to be happening, wherein industrialization 2.0 happened, and later on automation happened. The person who used to control the machine was also not required now. So that was industrialization 3.0, and now is the age of internet of things and services, wherein more amount of automation has come in. And the machine is intelligent itself to take its own decisions. That has happened right now. So these things are the, can be said to be the factors which have changed the Indian society. Industrialization, before industrialization what were the conditions, and after what are the conditions? Of course we will discuss what changes have happened, but as far as industrialization is concerned, a few important words are to be remembered. Before industrialization, our entire society was agrarian, it was non monetized economy. If we talk about the economic condition, agrarian in the sense agriculture was the important and most prevalent occupation of the people, and the entire economy of the society was non monetized. There were no coins, there were no note which we use right now, these things were not there. So it was non monetized right then. What was there, how people used to have things? There were no markets, but there were exchanges. The system called barter system was used for exchange, right, wherein people who used to produce, let's say one person produces rice, and this person who produces rice exchanges his things with the person who produces potato, and in this way a certain quantity is decided between them by consensus, and they exchange things in a way that they have both the things with them, right? So that used to happen in the barter system. There were no markets, and it was a non monetized economy because the exchanges were for survival. Okay, and later on as things industrialization came in, we had to go for a monetized economy. Non differentiation of occupation of the entire members of a particular family was same. So a person who was blacksmith, let's say, has his sons and yeah, other generations also blacksmiths only. Okay, so that used to happen. Nowadays every person, every generation, every child is free to choose different kinds of occupations, but that was not the case previously. Value system was different back then. Authority of the elders was there, as we have discussed. People used to listen blindly and do things as per the elders only. Sanctity of tradition was there. It may not be rational, that elders may not be taking the right decision always, but you had to listen to them anyway because you were totally dependent on them, and the value system was such that you totally agreed with them at all things. What changes have happened post industrialization? Economic changes, you can say. Specialization of work has happened. Everybody is not doing the same thing, everybody is not growing crops now. They have specialization of work, different kinds of work are done by people now. What has happened? Occupational mobility has happened, which has created specialization in work, and monetized economy had to be introduced because now people, only a few people were producing, and these people, let's say, were the are the farmers, and these farmers bring their things into the market where the people who consume, they take things. So the consumers, they may not have something to exchange at the market. Okay, so what is the thing that they can exchange is they can get these goods by exchanging money in the physical form, let's say coins. They can give some coins and then take the goods from the market. So monetization was required because of the specialization in the work. You can see how things are related, and all of this happened because of industrialization. Breakdown of link between kinship and occupational structures. As I told you, a person who is born in a given society, a given family, whose head is a blacksmith, the son may not have to be a blacksmith himself. He can be a cricketer now. He can choose his own occupation. So the linkage between kinship, so this is a kinship, and the occupation was broken because of industrialization, because now he was free to choose what he wanted to do. Socio-cultural changes happened, secularization of beliefs happened. Industrialization brought in people of various beliefs and cultures together, and they had to work together, wherein they had to live in a secular society. They had to be tolerant, and they had to be respectful to each other's religions and customs. So that happened as far as industrialization is concerned. So the entire result, we can say, is that people migrated a lot, spread of education, strong centralized political structure evolved, right? So all of these things, now you are having money in your society, that means you need to control various people, what people do and what people think. So that had to be done by the help of political structure and law and order. So urbanization was one of the things which brought change in a particular society. We can say that if industries are established in a particular area, what happens? You need various workers there. Workers need to work in these industries, and these workers used to come and create settlements around the industries, and this created urbanization. They came out of their villages, out of their habitat, and they moved near to the industries and created this thing known as urbanization. So urbanization is followed by industrialization. Oh, sorry, industrialization comes first and then urbanization happens. Urban population has grown. Obviously, family, kinship, caste, marriage, etc. systems differ a lot in their composition, ideology, and functioning as far as rural and urban areas are concerned. When they have come here, obviously, people from different castes, people who were having different customs used to come to work in industries because everybody was provided work. They, so as to survive, they had to live together. So, what used to happen? The composition of their beliefs, their ideology, and everything used to change a lot, and that has happened now. Family mostly was nuclear because the cost of living in such urban centers is high. The families from joint and extended families moved on to a nuclear family. Similarly, urbanization also brought about changes in other things like caste is not a dominating feature now, and intercaste marriages you are the best example wherein you can say caste is not a dominating feature in urban centers. Of course, in various places in India it is a dominating feature even now, but then as far as urbanization is concerned, urban centers are concerned, caste is not a dominating feature. And this promoted feminism. Only men used to work in these industries? No, women also used to work. When women have started working, stepping out of their homes and also taking care of their homes, they became independent. And as they became independent, previously in the patriarchal society, in a society where men used to be dominating, women now wanted equal rights at every field because they are independent. If you do not give equal rights, they will not be wanting to be a part of the society. When women are not the part of the society, will the society prosper? No, it will not. So as they became independent, they said that we are independent, we are economically independent, we can support ourselves, now give us equal rights. So feminism is something that promotes or which says that women getting equal status with men. The process is known as feminism, and the entire phenomena. And similarly, urbanization has brought Sanskritization. In the sense, as we have already discussed, there was a positional change of people in the caste system. Lower caste people became people of higher caste, and also there was westernization, wherein Western culture, with respect to education, food habit, dressing sense, style of eating, etc., have come in and or they have evolved or changed, right? This brought in modernization. What can we say is the difference between westernization and modernization? Westernization is nothing but having changes in the various beliefs or the material things, whereas modernization brought in something called a scientific outlook. You cannot blindly believe things, you need to have rational attitude. You cannot just do what the elders of your family or the head of the family says. You should think that in a rational manner and decide whether that thing is correct or not, and then you have to do now. So, and all of these also brought in high social mobility and specialization of work, as we have already discussed. And there was also caste system became very flexible. Caste and politics also, there was a relation. Why? Because how this happened, lower caste people started entering politics because they were given equal rights. lower caste people got political positions, they brought out their voices, and there was mobility, and they people used to think about their problems, and things changed for them. Also, legislative measures are various factors which have helped, wherein things like Untouchability Offences Act 1955 along with constitutional provisions have abolished or safeguarded the interests of the downtrodden, as we have already seen. Okay, so let's see what are the changes that were brought in various aspects of the Indian society. Considering the caste system first, intercaste marriages came in, obviously, right? As they had freedom to decide what they could do. That has happened. There were changes in the occupation. Why? People, you do not have to go with a particular occupation, because you are treated equally before law as far as Article 14 of the Indian Constitution is concerned. Similarly, the state cannot discriminate. When one person comes to you and asks for something, you cannot discriminate him on the basis of religion, race, caste, sex, place of birth, or any of them, each one of them, or any of them, as far as various things are concerned, as part of Article 15 of the Indian Constitution. And Article 16 of the Indian Constitution says that there is right to equality for opportunity in matters of public employment. When they come for job, you cannot discriminate them, as far as Article 16 is concerned, in a negative manner. Of course, there is positive discrimination, wherein you have the people who are from the down low caste, or the people who are from backward caste, they are given special provisions. But yes, negative discrimination should not be there as far as Article 16 is concerned. Orthodox mindset was changed, wherein child marriage, ban on widow remarriage, all of these things were not there now. Changing food habits, upward mobility of lower caste, as we have already seen. There was also change in the institution of marriage. If we consider, the purpose and aim of marriage changed. Now it was not your dharma to marry. You could marry if you want, or if when you do not want to marry, you need not marry. So there was also change in form of marriage. Polygamy was not there. You cannot marry many people. Of course, in certain cases, in certain religions, you have that, but polygamy is not prevalent now. Okay, polygamy in the sense marrying various a number of people, that cannot happen. You cannot get social approval on each one of those relationships. Live in relationship is promoted right now, wherein as per Article 21 and 2010 Supreme Court judgment of the three judge bench judgment, this live in relationship has been made a part of Article 21 of the Indian Constitution. Article 21 provides to each and every Indian constitution the right to life, and that life with dignity and freedom. So that this live-in relationship, in the sense people where they could live with each other even without marriage, that was made legal as far as this decision was concerned. And this also brought in rise in divorce, because now you did not had to be tied to a particular person. You can desert that person and move on. Change in the age of marriage also took place, wherein the age of marriage went up. What did this mean? This meant that people had more time to educate themselves, people had more time to understand the society and the world and live well in that society. So similarly, there were changes in the family structure also. Family structure changed, wherein it was not just a production unit, but it became a consumption unit. Production unit in the sense, previously they used to produce, they used to sow crops, and then that used to be a production unit, but it became a consumption unit. Is the person, the people are working somewhere and they are only consuming these crops right now. This is just an example, but that has happened. Only few members of a family need to work right now. Factory employment has also brought a change in the family. Why? Because they can now seek independent employment. People are independent, they need not depend on someone for their resources. Legislative measures like Child Marriage Restraint Act of 1925, Hindu Marriage Act, these have also brought changes in the age of the marriage, wherein you have longer time for education. Widow remarriage act, Hindu marriage act, etc., all of these have changed the interpersonal relations within the family, affected the composition and stability of the joint family especially. Right, you are free to have a nuclear family now. And similarly, we can say other changes that have happened as far as a family in Indian society is concerned. Western values have influenced modern science, rationalism, individualism, wherein the people, individual thought has got its own independence. That has happened. Equality, free life, and democracy, freedom of women has come in. Influence of urbanization, as we have already seen, nuclear families, more and more nuclear families are seen now. Changes in marriage system has happened. It is not a religious affair. If you want to marry, you do, or you can just ignore that part of your life. Influence of western values have taken their position. Change in the position of women has happened. So similar terms, but these changes have happened. Then are there any resistance to changes in the Indian society? There are various social barriers, and these social barriers have restricted changes in the Indian society. One of them is orthodoxy, rigid caste and class structure, and cultural barriers are also there. Superstitions, all these superstitions have resisted a change in the Indian society. Many superstitions are still alive. Political barriers, big landlords, businessmen, etc., are also present right now, who are the barriers to change in the Indian society. Economic barriers are there, materialistic people, because of which the change in the society may not be happening. Psychological barriers like man's love for tradition. uh, when a person loves his tradition, he would not want to change his tradition. So change in Indian society is not happening because of this. Isolation creating intolerance. So if you are isolated, you do not mingle with people of different cultures, you will not be trying to understand their cultures and live in harmony. So the isolation, for example, is creating intolerance. That can be a case. Similarly, if we talk about, we saw how our Indian society initially was. Then we have seen what are the changes that have happened. So, what is Indian society now today? So, the society suffers from various social evils. If we talk about Indian society, of course, we say that it has progressed a lot, but there are social evils. Girl child is still considered a burden. We have lost the tradition of joint family, and we have raised our voices even legally as far as various traditions are concerned. If we consider the Sabarimala temple case, that is one example in this case where we have raised our voices. Even we have seen that the people of the lower caste have raised their voices. Mob lynching is prevalent still, which is a very pathetic thing to discuss, but yes, it is still prevalent. Promote unity in diversity is the need of the hour right now. So we can conclude that Indian society has unity and diversity, and unity in diversity. Family forms the basic unit, and education is going to play a vital role wherein it can help in reviving the society and keeping it at pace with the changing world and environment. So we see that society can be a group of people who interact with each other, share culture, territory, and way of life. Indian society, though based on traditional beliefs, has a dynamic entity. It is a dynamic entity. Why? Because of industrialization, urbanization, etc. So that was the topic of features of Indian society. I hope you liked it. Thank you and all the best. And if you have any other queries, you can contact on our numbers given here. Thank you.